Hello, I am Gregory the Poor Typist, and welcome to a very special episode of Typewriter Club Live. We have a good friend with us today and a regular attendee of our Sunday morning meetings. So, who is it, you ask? Well, I'm going to ask the same question. Who is the Right Reverend Theodore Munk?
And Theodore Munk has to unmute now. And it's me.
Yay!
Me. I am. Next question.
How are you? Yeah, I know, huh? The question was, who is the Right Reverend Theodore Munk?
It's me.
Okay. Very good. And if you don't mind, where are you originally from?
I am from about 2 blocks southwest of here. I was born in a hospital that's just down the street. So,
oh, wow. Okay. And you've been there your entire life?
I've been here. Well, no, because I moved to Colorado for 3 months during the blizzard of '85, I think.
Oh, wow.
And so I got to experience more snow than I ever wanted to deal with, and I moved back.
Okay. Very good. Very good. So that also answers the question, where in the world are you now?
Right here.
Yes, right here.
In Arizona, for context.
Okay, Arizona. So it's a nice cool day there right now.
No.
Okay, so let's get right into the typewriter talk. These are just some introductory questions, and then we'll get into the we will get into the typewriter community submitted questions. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So the first introductory one is, do you have any early memories of typewriters?
I do. When my earliest memory of a typewriter would probably be a 1970s Galaxy Deluxe, maybe 1960s Smith Corona Galaxy Deluxe in blue with the blue platen that my mom had, that I used to type up family newsletters on. And so I remember that. And when I got one, I actually did get one at one point, and I will paste a link there in the chat showing basically that's pretty much the same machine that I remember from my childhood. And then later, because my mom was a church secretary, she had access to a big beige IBM Selectric 2, which fascinated me because, you could do the different types, and I wasn't really allowed to touch it very much. But I remember that pretty vividly. She worked on that for years and years and years, and she didn't actually get to take it home. We ended up taking it to the print shop that my parents owned, and then I don't know what happened to it after that. After we got actual typesetting type computers like a Macintosh and a LaserJet, our laser printer, that typewriter went away, and I don't know where it went. So
that's unfortunate.
But those are the two machines I have the clearest memories of as far as typewriters in my youth.
And did you get to use them a lot, or it was like hands off?
I got to use the Galaxy. Oh, there's also a third one. There was a Brother AX20, like the daisy wheel, that's like black and has some green accents on it. It's a pretty cool looking machine, but she had that after she got rid of the Galaxy, and I did a lot of typing on that. Okay. In like the 80s when I was in school. So.
And speaking of school, did you take a typing class, or are you self-taught?
I took a coding class. Back then, they had just got a room full of Commodore PETs in the classroom, and I was one of the first people to take the class on programming there. So was my first really keyboarding skills type class, and they didn't really dwell much on typing technique, and so I always learned to do this sort of 5-finger claw thing. that's my typing style, and it's more stabby and like two finger, except I'm using more than two fingers. But no, I have no actual training as far as correct typing. That is not a thing that I know how to do.
Okay. Me either. So I'm right there with you.
I've seen you type on your videos, and it's
yes, two fingers. So I'm not as efficient as you are. All right. So now we're gonna kind of hit like one of the big questions, like why are typewriters important today?
I wrote a note on that. The purpose has not changed, just the number of people who appreciate that purpose is basically my answer. I think typewriters today are, the only thing really different about typewriters today is that they are more mysterious. They tend to engender more creativity because it's such a different thing. People can take a typewriter and type on it, and it just completely sets their brain in a different place. And you can get a lot of creativity out of that, or it can just confuse you and annoy you, and you don't like doing typewriter stuff, and so you just don't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people like that. I don't judge them, but basically they have the purpose has never changed. It's a tool of creativity. It's a tool of communication. It's a delightfully constructed mechanical thing. And if you're into mechanics, there's something else you can appreciate and enjoy, and get your screwdriver out and start tinkering on the thing. But,
yes.
And then you have the people who like to make music on them, or take them all apart and turn them into statues. I see you wince about that. That's a common reaction, but it's, I personally feel that is fair game. That is very much just a thing you can do with a typewriter, and it helps you to do that thing. It inspires you to do something creative. So go ahead and do it.
Excellent.
Sometimes I'm a little upset about the typewriters they choose to take apart, and if they're knowledgeable, like that Jeremy Meyer guy from California Typewriter, he knows what he's doing. He knows what typewriters are junk and which ones are worth saving, and he works with typewriter guys and trades them machines that are decent for machines that are just parts machines. So I feel good about his method of doing things, but some people just don't know what they're doing, and so the destruction can happen, and that's sad, but it's not a Geneva crime or anything like that.
I will agree with that. And now, of course, typewriters have been around for many, many, many decades. And technically, I guess they're still being put out today.
Technically, yes, in China.
Yeah.
I think Godrej went down a few years ago, and so that was the last actual typewriter company producing manual typewriters. Right now, you have Shanghai We Live in, I think that's how you pronounce it, Shanghai We Live or something like that, in China, who basically has, I think, 4 sets of tooling for different typewriters: the JP7, the Brothers JP7, Silver Seiko 700, a Nakajima design, and one other, and I forget what it was, but over the past 20 years, they've pulled out one set of machinery or another, and they'd stamp out a whole bunch of parts and do job lots of typewriters for different companies. And a lot of times that's Royal, Olivetti, Olympia. You'll see them branded as, Olivetti Premier 25, or, the Royal Classic is the new one that has the metal covers that block your view of the type point. So those are the same internal mechanical design as these old typewriters from the 60s and 70s, but they're just made to such a much lower quality as far as the materials and the workmanship, that a lot of times you'll get them out of the box and they're just unusable out of the box.
Yeah.
They can be tuned. They generally don't stay in tune very long because of the quality of the metal. But they're being made.
Yeah. And this kind of leads into my question. What is your favorite decade of typewriters?
I wrote down 1940 to 1966.
Okay.
Because that tends to be where most of my collection sits.
Okay.
As far as use, and I'm mostly interested in typewriters that I can actually take out and type on and have a good experience, or an interesting experience anyway. I'm not specifically interested in a great experience. I just want to be entertained and challenged by the experience that I have with a typewriter.
Yeah.
Whether that's mechanical or the actual typing experience.
Okay. Now, I should have researched this, but is there, because like in some collecting, there's a golden age, like of comics. Is there a golden age of typewriters?
Well, there are, I don't know if I am the right person to put these people into little boxes, but there are people who are interested in antiques. And that's, the weird, crazy designs from the 1800s and early 20th century. And that's what they're interested in. They don't care about typing on the machine. They don't care about fixing the machine. They're just interested in owning this antique that displays a specific mechanical innovation or is an interesting and weird way to solve the problem. And that's what really, lights up their light bulbs, is they like to collect in that category. And some of them collect for value, which is fine. It's not something I care about, but it's a valid thing. Because eventually, museums exist, and museums are going to be created to focus on these eras. And it's good that someone is taking the time to, keep those machines available and in collections and such. And so while that doesn't interest me at all, it is very much a valid collecting purpose. And for a long time, it was the only collecting purpose in typewriters. These days, there are a lot of people who collect for different periods, like mostly dealing with their youth or, times that they had when they were happy, or design eras that they particularly like. Some people just like mid-century modern, and they want to have, nice 40s and 50s and 60s machines sitting around in their shelves so they can show people. Or a lot of times they will like I do, they like how those machines type, and they are working on their books, and they find particular creativity in, that particular kind of machine. Some people just collect for colors. That happens. Some people, well, I don't know. There's probably a million reasons to collect, and they're all valid. It's, whatever floats your boat really is a valid reason to collect typewriters.
So basically, what I'm getting from this is essentially the golden age depends on the person, really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's purely a personal sort of thing. And, there are ages that people agree are the great ages. Like, again, the 1800s to the early 1900s is where all that innovation happened. And people were trying to do the same thing without infringing on other people's patents. And so they came up with more and more creative and more outlandish ways of doing things. And that's an interesting period to study. But you could say the same thing about the 80s, the late 70s to early 80s, where typewriter companies, they were actually prospering big time in that period. And all this technology was getting flung at them, and they came up with interesting designs like these pen plotter typewriters, the BP30, the Brother BP30, which is one that has like a little rotating turret of ballpoint pens that you could, it would handwrite. You type a letter, and it would, like, you type A, and it would the little thing would handwrite an A with a ballpoint pen. And those are interesting designs. Thermal typewriters are interesting designs. Daisy wheels, daisy wheel goes all the way back to the 1800s, but they went back to that design because it was, now you could do it with a stepper motor, and you weren't sitting there hand turning a dial and pushing an impression thing. You could have the computer do it for you. And so they designed typewriters to do that. And that was very successful for decades. The pen plotters, not so much. They lasted, maybe 4 years, I think. The idea of connecting your computer to your typewriter was popular from 1984 to probably 1988, before that feature basically disappeared. But for a while there, you could buy typewriters with Centronics or a serial communications port built into it, so you could hook it to your computer and join these two technologies together. But then eventually people just bought printers because they're faster. Dot matrix or laser printers eventually just took over everything, and inkjets. Early inkjets are terrible. I don't know if you went through that whole period, but I remember buying an inkjet, Bubble Jet 30, I think, that just spit ink all over everywhere and just leaked all the time. And it was a terrible piece of technology. But nowadays that's $1 billion business.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Those are exciting times. I don't know that anybody collects machines from the 80s other than me, but and you, I know you get into them.
Yes.
Joe does too. But to me, that's also an interesting period to look at and see, what kind of crazy solutions these people came up with to keep their industry alive. Anyway, does that answer that question?
Yes, definitely. Thank you. And now you briefly touched on your interest in typewriters being in actually typing. So more specifically, how do you use your typewriters?
For the most part, I have them sitting around, and I'll just type whatever I'm thinking. It's an output device for my thoughts. I mostly do blogging, so I like to have the typewriter with different typefaces. I like to switch them out all the time to suit my moods, or to just have something new. Lately, I have been fixing up the machines that I have. I'm on this Love the One Year With quest, and basically making the machines I have suit better my desires. As far as typing quietness, that's a big thing for me, and the sound. It's important to me that the machine isn't shrill, that it's not clacky. I like, nice, soft, thick thuds, and so I soundproof the machines, and put new rubber on them, and put new feet on them so they're not sliding around, and that to me, that engenders a lot of joy for me to do that.
Excellent. What about like correspondence, anything like that?
Oh yeah, I write letters. You know that.
I know. I have to play.
You owe me a couple.
Yes, I do.
So yeah, I do. I use like lately when I joined the postcard exchange. Now I have postcards that are on thick paper, and Joe's solution is to type up a label and stick it on the postcard. My solution is to use a $10,000 typesetting machine to feed what is essentially a roof shingle through the platen, and use teeny tiny type, the little 6-point type to type on the card. So
oh my,
I'm getting a lot of joy out of that because I can finally have a good use for that machine.
Excellent. Now your fame, if you will, comes from
I want to live forever.
comes from a most valuable resource that hopefully everybody is using to some degree, and that is the typewriter database. So, what
Mhm.
is the typewriter database?
At its simplest, it is a listing of typewriter serial numbers and dates that we have culled from old factory records, from old dealer records, sometimes sales books that we've gotten from typewriter uh, dealerships that dealt in machines back then. You know, they would record the serial numbers of the machines as they got them into stock, and then as they sold them, they'd write down that serial number again, so I know when it came in from the wholesaler and when it went out retail. So a lot of times those kind of things are very valuable for putting together some of the lists that we don't have actual factory or industry lists for. And mostly we get our lists from the old NAMDA, which is the National Office Machine Dealers Association, the OMEF, which I think is I forgot, it's in London. It's the big dealer association in London. There's a German organization that put out these Herstellungsdaten, which are books of lists of typewriter dates and models and years. And there are one of the more interesting sources was written by a guy named Sheridan, who was the sales manager for Remington between 1950 something and 1974, I think. And he actually took the time to collect all the company's records and make lists of when those machines came out of the factory and into his possession there at the wholesale office. So they would, warehouse them and send them out to dealers from there, and he would record the serial numbers as they came into his purview. And so that is a very interesting document in that he really took a lot of effort and time to set that up as a historical document rather than just a record of sales. And that was important. Finding that document was important. I'm still finding lists. Most of the times they're just duplicates of other lists, because a lot of times those dealership organizations, once they got to about 1970 something, they just kept publishing the same list over and over again in every yearly catalog. So by the time you get to the 80s, you're not getting much information that's new when you find those books. Then, slowly but surely, we're collecting galleries in the typewriter database of people's actual machines. That's what the typewriter hunters are for. The reason that we have those galleries are twofold. It's not only for you to keep a record of your collection, it's so that those machines get documented for future researchers, so that they can go back and look at this huge swath of known machines, documented machines, and make derive information from those records. So like a lot of times I've gone back, especially for brands like Royal, I'll go back and look at people's galleries in terms of the years they were produced, the serial numbers, see what kind of features appear when, and that's a hugely valuable resource for that sort of thing. And so adding the galleries was a very important step in furthering the mission of the typewriter database, which is basically just to list the purpose of the typewriter database is basically to gather all that information so that people can figure out when their machine was made. And that's, I'm not delving deep into the history of these machines or their mechanics really. I'm just delving into serial numbers when they were made, serial numbers when they were made, when features appear, That's basically it. I leave the history to the people who really want to write about the history.
And it is the Typewriter Database, do you have to join, or is it something that is openly accessible to the public without joining?
All the serial number records and all the galleries are visible to anyone who just goes there. So if you just want to get information, you can just go ahead and do that. There's no reason to join. The only reason I want people to join is if they're going to become a typewriter hunter and actually input galleries.
Okay.
Or links. You can, as a hunter, you can link to articles about a specific machine or a specific brand within the pages there. So not a lot of people do that, but it's there if you want to do it.
Yeah. And is it free to join, or is there a fee?
No, it's absolutely free. It only takes your time and mental effort to figure out how to do it. Because I have kind of a roundabout way of getting people to join. They have to sign up and then validate through email, so I know that they're an actual person. And then they have to put a comment on one of my blog posts to say, I want to be a typewriter hunter, because I found that was the most efficient way to get rid of spammers. And so that's what I do, and that's how you have to become a typewriter hunter, is you have to ask for it. But it's free. I'm not going to charge you for it.
Excellent. Now, you mentioned it, I mean, based on your description, there's a lot to it, but is there anything you would change about the Typewriter Database?
I wrote down, if there were things I wanted to change, I would have changed them.
Well, there you go.
Because I'm in total control, and so
yes, okay.
If I want to change things, I do change them. I am working on some things that will roll out later on, but right at this point in time, it's mostly just incremental changes. I'm working on the actual pages themselves, adding more information as it comes in. There are some mechanical changes coming, but they're not super important. But those things happen over time.
Just kind of a follow-up question is, does the site essentially run itself, or is there a lot of behind-the-scenes work you have to do on it?
I have to do a bit of behind-the-scenes work. As far as just running, if I just died today, it would keep running for forever. But people wouldn't be upgraded to Typewriter Hunter. People wouldn't be, there wouldn't be any changes to the pages as far as dating information. But it would run without me. But there would be no maintenance.
Okay. Now, there's another thing you're famous for, but perhaps less so. But those
I have to copy a link.
Oh, okay.
I haven't been paying attention to the chat. So should I just spend a little bit of time looking at the chat, or?
No, we'll get to the chat towards the end, I think.
Okay. Well, I'm going to post the About Typewriter Database, because that answers most of the questions about the Typewriter Database and what it's for.
Excellent.
And then I've got another link for the question you're about to ask. Okay, go ahead and ask it.
So the other thing you're famous for are the typewriter repair Bibles. What are those?
Those are these. Not this one. These. Let's see. Typewriter repair Bibles are basically compilations of all the information we have on repairing, using, dating your typewriter. Like this one here is for the Hermes 3000, and that includes the user manuals, the service manuals, the parts manuals, dating information if we have them, typeface catalogs if we have them, tool catalogs if we have them. And basically, it's if you want to know anything about repairing or using your typewriter, get a Bible, because that has all the information in it. And that's what those are. I basically built those because I wanted these kind of books for my own collection, so I could fix the things that were broken and tune the machines up the way I wanted to tune them. And I decided that, just me having them is not enough. I should offer them to other people. So they're out there. They're available. You can get them. They help. If you buy them, that helps keep the typewriter database going. And I've got nice big thick ones like this one for the Royal. I don't know. I think you bought this one.
Yes.
But we have loads and loads of information on these big standards, because they get really into detail when you get into the standards. And there's a lot of adjustment points on a standard. And then it gets really thick. I have 2 volume sets for some of the electrics. If you're into that. So there's that. What next?
Excellent. So I could be wrong, but you strike me as a humble person. But we talked about the fame you've gained with the Typewriter Database and the Typewriter Repair Bibles. How do you feel about that level of recognition?
It's not that high. It's not like I'm Tom Hanks or anything, so I don't get people mobbing me on the streets and such. So it's basically normal. I get very little untoward attention. So I'm still sane.
That's important. Excellent. So one more question before we get into the typewriter community submitted questions, which were submitted over the past week or so.
Okay.
Other than typewriters, what are some of your other interests?
Well, I am interested in all kinds of creative things. I won't list them all. Lately, I do want to hawk a book that a friend of mine put out called The Staplers, Stapling Machines, and Paper Fasteners, Volume 3 on the Ace Stapler brand, which is a reference work that covers every single stapler that Ace put out throughout its entire existence, with photographic examples, tables of information. There's dating information for a lot of these now, and I have been a huge cheerleader for this project ever since he started out with, he started with Hotchkiss, which is a line that not a lot of people know about. He continued with Neverclog, which is another one that not many people know about, but I encouraged him to do Ace, and he did it very hugely. It is 3 times as thick as any of his other books. And he spent 1.5 years putting it together, and it is very, very good. I'm very pleased to have served some small encouragement in having that book happen. And that's the sort of thing one of the things I'd like to do is if somebody has a project that is really interesting and I think really valuable as far as historical purposes and to excite a collecting community. And I think this book on Ace is going to be very exciting to stapler collectors. I know there's not a huge number of them, but I'm hoping that excites that community to the point where it's a little more like typewriter collecting. Because I like staplers, and most of the people who are into typewriters are also into staplers, but just not to the same level. And I think having information available is what makes that collecting community grow and prosper. Having information out there is something that draws more information in. It draws more people. More people are more excited. and more information comes up because of that. And I am of high hopes that this is going to do that to the stapler collecting community. And I'm very happy to have helped cheerleader that into existence. And so that's another thing that I do, is I encourage projects that I think are worthwhile and support them and help make them happen.
Very good. Now, I have had the honor of receiving a stapler from your collection, so thank you very much for that.
There you go.
So, and you do have me, I think a while back on Typewriter Club Live, you had shown is it the Chadwick?
Chadwick, yes. The little stapleless one.
Yeah.
It folds paper underneath and slides it through a slot that it
Yeah, so
into the paper. So
yes, so I have one of those on my wish list. So I'm probably going to be getting into those.
Just be careful that you don't do it with your hand. You have to have it on the table because it's got that sharp blade, and it will cut a hole in your hand.
Oh my goodness! Thank you for the warning.
I have done it several times.
Oh boy!
I keep forgetting.
Yeah. All right, so we have a lot of questions actually from the typewriter community. So thank you for participating. I appreciate it.
Let's hear them.
All right, so the first one comes from Sean Bowie. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Sean. From Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And he says, I know that you have done the best with the information at hand when creating the typewriter serial number lists. During my travels, there have been times where I have come across typewriters with later serial numbers than known end of production numbers on Typewriter Database. Are you interested in getting further information to capture these finds? And if so, how would you like it passed on?
This is the standard answer I'm going to give to any question like that. And it is, become a typewriter hunter, photograph those finds, document those finds, record the serial number, upload it to a gallery. That's the prime number one thing we need to do with these sort of things. That if they're, if you have serial number out of range, make sure that machine gets in the database, because it's not going to be the individual reports of serial numbers that are out of range that are going to mean anything to anybody, because there's no context for it. But if we have, 5 machines in galleries that we can show have, have serial numbers out of range, and we know that they have these particular features, then somebody can go through, research that, and come up with a conclusion. And then we can throw it on the list and say, we now know that it extended, a year past this date and into this serial number range because we have these examples and they show these features. That is really the best way to get that information into the database, is make sure you get those galleries in the database, because that's what people are going to be studying when they are looking for that information. They're going to go look at those examples. They're going to look at the list. They're going to look at the examples, and then they're going to form new conclusions based on that information. And that's going to be what shows up in a blog post somebody writes about, I've seen this information and I believe it means this. And then I can go back and read that blog post and say, okay, that's new information. I can reference that post in the references and then put that information on the list. That's how that's going to happen.
Okay. Now, so sometimes we're fortunate when we get these typewriters and they come with receipts or manuals or that sort of thing. Is it beneficial for us to also photograph those and include those in the galleries?
Yes, especially sales receipts. If you have a dated sales receipt or any kind of, like if somebody typed I got this in 1972 for my birthday. If they happen to type that on the packing sheet, scan that in, because that's information that we could use. If it's a manual, if it's like a user's manual, scan that in. If you send it to me or you send it to Richard Polt, either way, it's going to end up on Richard Polt's site. It's going to end up in the archive that I keep of all the documentation that is scanned and eventually filed in a what do you call it, organized way. Because that's the major problem, is once we collect all these scans of documents, we have to organize it. And so I have a gigantic hard drive full of those documents, and every couple of years I go through and just put it all in the right slots and make the, put the listing to that thing up on the page that has that listing of all those documents. And so we file it, organize it, and archive it. And Richard Polt usually puts that stuff up on his manual site, where he has user manuals for all kinds of machines. And one way or the other, it's going to be made available. So
now the question is that hard drive backed up?
Yeah, I have 4 backups and one offsite. So
okay.
And
that would be tragic.
Here, I'll show you something.
Okay. Yeah, that would be absolutely tragic if, because I've had collections of music that I've lost because I didn't back up my hard drive. So yeah, that would be bad.
This is the non-hard drive version of the backup, which is a whole bunch of CD-ROMs and a thumb drive. This one was last backed up in 2019, so that here, I'll show it to you. Whole bunch of CD-ROMs or DVD-ROMs actually jammed into a folder and backed up there, and on the thumb drive, and then on hard drives. So I don't even know why I keep this one, because it's
it's old school.
Pointless, but it's a book that I can put on my shelf, and it makes me happy. So
yes, there you go. Good answer. All right, so our next question comes from our own Bob Marshall. He's also in Riverside, California, along with me.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, he has several questions.
He does.
Yes. So, and this first one, I'm very curious about, actually. Do you see a typewriter repair academy in the near future of our industry?
The first thing you need to think about is the meaning of the word industry. Because I don't think we're exactly there yet. What we have is a bunch of semi-retired typewriter technicians who have, some of them have kept their businesses going since 1963 or whenever, and they are the ones that are usually the 70, 80-year-old guys in a little hole in the wall shop, just filled with machines. They generally tend to work alone, and they like working alone. Very few of them have taken on apprentices. Some of them have passed their businesses on to those apprentices. Like for Bob Montgomery's shop up in, Paul Lundy runs it now. It's up Bremerton in Washington, is one such like that, where he took on an apprentice, and then when he retired, he sold that shop to the apprentice and then died, unfortunately, but he was very old. But sometimes you have those kind of successful transitions in business. We have, in the past couple of years, gotten a lot of retired technicians coming back into the industry because they, all of a sudden there's, a market there and interest, and then they've come in and started their shops again, or, restarted their shops. There's been an enormous number of people who have learned some amount of typewriter repair. I'm not going to say they're experts, and I'm not going to say they're beginners, because it's, a range. And they have started shops, basically refurbishing to various degrees of refurbishment, typewriters and selling them on Etsy or eBay or various other marketplaces. And those seem to be doing well. So as far as I can tell, they're making enough money to keep doing it. And so, those seem to be successful. So there is a market. I'm not sure that there's a market that would support a training school. It has been tried. I know one of the typewriter shops, I forget where, but they were doing summer sort of workshops where you would pay a certain amount and then go in and learn alongside the technician how to do things. And I don't know that that was intended to be an apprenticeship, but it was just, learn some skills to work on your own machines. So that's been done. I don't know if it's still being done, but there are opportunities. I'm not sure that it is a super rich market for doing something large scale. And I have a cat on my lap.
Excellent. Do you think this could be more about people just collaborating and learning together?
I think if you approach it in the sense of like a maker's shop or a maker's community, that would be more reasonable. And I think Bob, who has asked this question, is thinking about a very specific sort of thing. And it's sort of that kind of makers, he wants to take on apprentices like from, I think he was talking about a troubled youth home or something where, he would take kids who need something to do and give them a thing to do that, might be interesting to them and might, be able to teach them a few things about, workshopping and working in a shop. I'm not sure if he's looking to train actual typewriter technicians. He may be. That's a possibility. But I just don't think there is going to be a huge market where you can run a typewriter repair school and have it be something that's going to earn you your daily bread.
All right. So now his next question, I put it out there that it could be any questions.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave us any questions. So Bob is asking, what color are your undergarments today and why?
Green, and that's because they were next in the drawer.
There you go. All right, back to typewriters. So are you still thinking of a verified ownership program for those of us who want to catalog our machines anonymously? So I guess he's asking if there would be sort of like a way to use the Typewriter database and the galleries, but anonymously? I think that's what he's asking.
We had a telephone discussion about this.
Okay.
And he had a specific thing in mind, basically dealing with collectors who do not want to have their collections known. And they want to be able to say, I have this machine, and they maybe want to show it to someone else or have it in a record for their insurance company, but they don't want anybody else seeing that machine. They don't want anybody else, maybe stealing the serial number off of it and claiming that it's theirs or something. I don't know what the specific reasons are. We discussed this, and the more I think about it, the more I feel that is not in keeping with the Typewriter Database's stated mission, which is to get that information in a place where people can study it and people can draw new conclusions from it. And so specifically to Bob, I would say that a project like the one that we discussed is probably best thought of in terms of not the Typewriter Database, but maybe a separate thing or a separate site that I might take on as a client programming project, as part of my business, which I do have, I do that. I'm a software consultant. And that would be something that would be more of a private project that I might take on for pay.
Of course. That would be a big job.
Because it's, the basic premise of this privacy oriented collection database is just not at all what the Typewriter Database is about.
Okay. All right. His next question.
Okay.
Just 2 more questions from Bob. So when can we expect your next book to come out, and what color will that be?
Soon and red.
Red. Okay. I think we do kind of know these books by the color. They all have the same background, but then they have the accent colors like orange, yellow, whatever.
That's intentional. I did that on purpose.
Okay. Very good. And his last question, and I have to agree with this one. How can we give you more money for all you do for the typewriter community? Because you put in a ton of work, and I feel like you need to be recognized more than by this interview.
If you really want to give me money, and I don't refuse money, there is a Patreon that Typewriter Database has that would be an excellent place to join up and drop a couple bucks in the kitty every now and again, or every month. And that also gives you access to the half price on the PDF documents that I sell on Selfie, which is a lot of typewriter manuals and repair manuals and service manuals and parts manuals and various other things that I put up there. So you get a little benefit for it, and you benefit the Typewriter Database.
Yes. And is there a link on your website, or can people search for Typewriter Database on Patreon?
If you go to the Typewriter Database, on the front page, there's a big logo that says TWDB, and below that it has a little line of text that says, I'd like you to join and help us support us on Patreon. And then there's a little green button under that that says Patreon, and you click that and it'll take you directly to it.
Excellent. Yes. All right. So our next question comes from Don Silsby from Palm Beach Gardens. I'm not sure where Palm Beach Gardens is, but that's where Don Silsby is. So he says, I have several Smith Corona Electras from the 1960s. You notice that there is little info under the Smith Corona Electric Portables section on the database. Yes, I can find pictures of the different Electras, but I just assumed that there would be more information under the electric portables. There is also little mention here of the cartridge machines, Coronamatics, that Smith Corona was producing in the 70s, and I would like to be able to see that as well if it will be available. Thanks.
Okay, the answer for that one is that unfortunately Smith Corona had a habit of doing a different series for every single model. They started at either 10,000 or 100,000, and then they numbered on up for every single model. So if it's an 5TE, it's a different series than a 5TEL or 5 or a TL5, something like that. Any change in the model was a new series. And so we had to basically find the records for every one of those series. And after about 1964, Smith Corona stopped publishing those records, and they would only send them to their dealers. They wouldn't send them to anybody else. There is a guy named Jay Respler who had those records. It is my understanding that a few years ago, they were destroyed in his basement in a flood. And so those records no longer exist. You may still be able to get information from Jay Respler if you talk to him directly, because that's always been the only way you've been able to get a date out of him, is to just look him up on, used to be Yahoo, but those forums are gone. I don't know where he's at now, but if you find him, you can probably ask him, give him a serial number. He might be able to tell you the date, but that's all he'll tell you. He won't give you any other information on it. And that's sad. That's a good object lesson on why you don't keep these things to yourself, why you don't hoard this information, why you gather it together and publish it. So that's the answer to that is we just don't know. We may never know.
Yeah, there are definitely those gray areas in you know what information is even out there anymore. So sad but true. All right, so our next couple questions come from someone everybody knows, Mr. Joe Van Cleve.
Mr. Joe Van Cleve.
In Albuquerque, New Mexico. The first one, how did your previous career in the printing business prepare you for the typewriter hobby?
Well, the answer is not really. I mean, I know about paper because of that. I know more about the basic putting ink on paper than most people do, which is interesting, but not really applicable to typewriters. I had very limited experience with typewriters in the printing industry because we didn't really use them much. I mean, way back in the day, we used to use the Selectric to typeset church newsletters and such. But, that was back then.
Yeah.
That kind of quality wasn't really acceptable once there was real inexpensive typesetting, which basically came about in the 70s with, the Composer. I have a cold typesetting machine called the Selectric Composer that I have over there, which is one of the machines that they use to typeset proportional type in justified columns, which was kind of the professional thing. And that lasted for 10 years until the Apple Macintosh and the laser printer came around, and that pretty much destroyed that whole industry. And after that, it was just computers.
Yeah. Now, in a print shop, you have all kinds of machinery. So does that, working with machinery, does that carry over to typewriters? Because I know you like to tinker with your typewriters.
That is a thing. I used to, I had to work on printing presses and, the big bomb folder and various machines to keep them running on a daily basis. But that follows all the way back from when I was a kid, and I used to take apart radios and TV sets that I'd find out in the alley and mount the lights in cardboard boxes and have my little spaceship in my closet. I was good at taking things apart, not so great at putting them back together again, but
have you gotten better at that?
I have gotten somewhat better. There are a few machines here that are completely apart, and I haven't actually put them back together again. But most of the two main ones are ones that I'm actually working on a book for. So I actually need them to be apart right now. So I have excuses for some of them.
Yes.
Some of them not so much. Like your tape recorder that you gave me.
Yes.
I can't even get that one open. I was very sad about that. I thought I could fix it, but I got to a certain point and I'm like, I either have to break plastic or just give it up. And so I gave it up.
Yeah, those cassette recorders are so small.
They're very tiny.
Yeah.
Very delicate.
So I do not blame you. All right. And Joe's next question was, where and how did you learn your software computer skills?
Well, like I said, I got my first programming experience in school with a Commodore PET. I learned BASIC. And then not too long after that, my dad bought a Commodore VIC-20, which I basically took over. And he ended up buying an Apple IIe, which I was not allowed to touch until he got a Macintosh, when I got the 2E, and then I was not allowed to touch the Macintosh. And so basically that, as a kid, I grew up getting these, old school beginner computers and playing around with them and programming them. And that was my early experience. And then in the mid 90s, I quit printing for a while and went and joined an internet ISP that had just started up called OnRamp, that basically took a fractional T1 line and split it up into 40 or 50 14.4 modems that we hooked to phone lines and had people dial up to get internet connection. That was back before there was a web. It was all like Gopher and Archie and Waze as your access through just straight text internet, and did that for a while. And then the web came along. So I learned web programming, and that was pretty much where I went back into the printing industry, because the printing industry is about communicating or helping small businesses or businesses communicate their business ideas and their products to their customers. And the web basically fit right into that. And so I became the printing company's web guy, and we offered those services alongside printing. Back then, you get your letterheads and envelopes, your brochures, your carbonless forms, all those things that don't exist anymore, along with your website. And so I was the guy that built the websites, and that started my whole website building career. And that's kind of where I'm at now. So
Excellent. All right, so our next question is from Susan Coover in Plano, Texas.
Okay.
And I like her question a lot because, yeah, well, I'll just ask her a question, and yeah.
Okay.
I have been collecting typewriters for a while now, but other than a cursory cleaning, I haven't done much with them except use them. What are the things I should be doing to maintain them, other than just cleaning the type slugs?
Well, I mean, she's doing the right things right now, which is using them. There's no better way to keep a typewriter running than to run it and cleaning it. As it gets dirty, if you leave it alone for a while, clean up the segment, run some solvent through there, and get it clean. Clean the machine, use the machine. Clean the machine, use the machine. Oops, I think the cat knocked my phone thing off my microphone. Oh well, it's lost to the wind now. It's gone.
And let's say someone has, a largish collection, and maybe the typewriters don't get as much use as they should. So they're going to be stored for a little while. Are there any steps they should take to, keep them in decent shape?
Keep them in the case if they're portables. One thing I have found throughout the years is that I can find a portable in a thrift shop that is in its case still, and I can open it up, and it may not have been touched since the 40s, and it's still running perfectly fine and nice and clean because it's in its case. I keep all my machines in their cases unless I'm using them. I know a lot of people like to take them out and put them on shelves and put them in little glass fronted cabinets, which is fine. But at that point, you need to clean them because dust is going to get in there. But you can solve a lot of that just by using them. Put them on rotation, take them out and type on one day, put that one away, and pull out the next one the next day and type on that one. Just using it is the best medicine for a typewriter. It's a machine that wants to be used, and it reacts very well to being used.
Very good. So just keep using your typewriters and rotate through them.
Yep. And clean them. Try to keep them in their cases. If you don't want to keep it in the case, maybe cover it. And definitely clean it. That's keeping them clean is the best thing you can do.
Yes.
Using it is the best thing you can do.
Excellent. All right. So our next question comes from the Netherlands, Indro van der Pluim. And I totally slaughtered that name. I apologize, Indro. But his first question is, how long and why did you start the Typewriter Database?
I started it in about 2012. There's a story I'm linking to here from my blog, where I basically put together the idea of, hey, I'm going to mirror this old site that nobody's taken care of, and I'm going to do some improvements on it. And that was in December of 2012. And it's all started from there, basically. And it was a site that existed, but we think that the guy who put it together died and stopped maintaining it. And I was, at that time, a new collector. And I had come up with a bunch of NAMDA books that I had found and scanned, and realized that the information in there was different than the information in the Typewriter Database. It was, the American brands weren't so well documented in the old Typewriter Database because he was a German. And so I tried contacting him. I emailed, I tried writing letters, I tried doing all kinds of things to get a hold of this guy, and just never got a response. And eventually it turned out that the domain name for that site was going to expire. And so I thought, I need to do something about that. And that relates to a question that's going to come up a little later on. I basically took the project on, took the same mission statement that Dirk Schumann had written up, and adopted that as my mission statement, and went ahead and just kept the project going.
Wow, that's amazing. And his follow-up question is, and it's a little, I can hear my brother-in-law in my head saying that's private, but I'll ask it anyway. Does it make a living?
No.
Okay.
Like I said, I still have clients that I work with and do work for. I'm an independent contractor, so I take jobs as they come. And so that affords me the kind of flexibility I need to do Typewriter Database the way it needs to be done.
Excellent. All right. So our next question comes from George Austria in Austin, Texas. Of all the typewriters that you've been aware of and used, which one would you say was most successful from a design, function, and durability standpoint?
My initial thought was the Olympia SM series, SM9, SM7, SM3. But if I really sit down and think about it, it's going to be the Underwood standard. Because that was the really first super successful front stroke design that just never changed for 80 years. They made that machine for decades, and it really, not much except the skin changed on it, from the very earliest ones to the very latest ones. So I'm going to have to call that success.
Yeah.
As far as building a machine to a cost that is easy to use, easy to maintain, easy to improve, I would say the Brother JP1, the little Brother JP1s. They're super easy. They're cheap. They're very well made. It is very easy to work on them. It is very easy to improve them. Like, the things they cut costs on were soundproofing. They didn't use great rubber in the little hinge points and the softening for the type bars and such. You can fix that real easy. Make all that stuff a lot quieter. It's a very clacky machine and tinny sounding when it's in its factory state, but it takes very little padding. Well, it takes a lot of padding, but It takes very little work to make those machines look sound and feel like a much more expensive machine. And that's one of the things that I really like about them.
And I know you have a rather extensive blog post about the soundproofing you did on one of yours.
I have documented all those processes and made them available for people to hopefully inspire people to do the same thing, because those machines are really, really nice when you take a little care of them.
Excellent. All right. So our next question comes from David Corneli and I'm going to slaughter this city name, but Sindelfingen, Germany. As one of the handful of typewriter bloggers, writers, enthusiasts, whose work is often the first exposure newcomers have to the typosphere, what are your thoughts on engaging with the next generation of typewriter enthusiasts?
I wrote down a note. It says, encourage creativity. There are no wrong uses for typewriters. And that's basically what I try to exhibit as far as, my blog posts on the activities that I do with typewriters is, try things, try a new thing, do this, do that, do whatever makes you happy. Use the typewriter as a tool, use the typewriter as a muse, use the typewriter as parts for your next project, whether, you glue them to your car or whatever, I don't care, but whatever makes you happy. And that's what I think engagement is in the next generation is going to be, is like taking what they want to do and say, yeah, do that.
Now, I know we've talked in the past about the whole type-ins and how it's a good way to reach out to people about typewriters. Do you think this would be a good way to reach out to young people?
It is. We've done a lot of type-ins here in my community. That has, of course, come to a screeching halt due to the current human malware situation. It has not started up again at this point because out of an abundance of caution, because we're not through it yet. Where that goes in the future, it is not resolved yet. I have seen some of the groups in other states have started up their typewriter meetings again, and it's been fairly successful. So there's hope that comes back, and that is a powerful tool for getting younger people into it, because especially if you throw these type-ins at like a library. We used to do that a lot. You'll have kids coming in and their parents coming in and just you can't get them off the typewriters with a crowbar. There's just, they love it. So it's a great way to introduce the concept to other people, kids and their parents. Those guys that type up poems on the sidewalk outside coffee shops, that's also a great way to raise awareness. Just, getting out there, again, with the caveat of, we're not supposed to be getting out there right now.
Exactly.
Is, in the future will be a very important tool.
Yes. All right. Our next question comes from Eric in Foster City, California. Actually, he has a couple questions. The first one, I love Typewriter Database and your blog. Both are fantastic resources. Are you looking at making further improvements to Typewriter Database? I'd love to see in particular a way to be notified of new comments on my own entries or entries I have commented on, as well as a way to signal possible errors with dates or models. So I guess let's tackle that first suggestion he has. Basically the comments being more interactive.
Okay, what he's talking about is probably getting emailed notices when comments come in. And that is something I'm generally opposed to, because I don't personally like it when sites just send me all kinds of email notices all the time. I personally think it's bothersome, and it's hard for me to get out of that mindset as far as, but I could. I have thought about it a lot, and I know the mechanical steps I would take to do that. It wouldn't be hard, but I would want it to be opt-in for one thing. So you'd have to actually go into your settings and check a box that says, I want email notifications for these things. And for the next version, you'll notice that Typewriter Database is now in version Epsilon. There were 4 earlier versions of it. So it does change. Every once in a while, I'll go through and just rewrite the whole thing and put in new features and such. That hasn't happened since 2019, but we're getting to be about due for me to start thinking about that again. And that is one of the things that I'm thinking about adding. Yeah. Okay. I don't like it, but I know other people do. So I might make it an opt-in option for that.
Yes. And then his second part of that question was a way to signal possible errors with dates or models.
Generally use the comment system, because I do read all the comments. So if I see someone say, oh, that's not the right year or the right model, I'll go through and check it myself and change it if it needs to be changed.
Okay. There would be no way to really automate that, though, right?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, that would just be an invitation for griefing.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. So his next question, this might sound a little depressing, but I wonder what kind of plan, if any, you might have to ensure that the database stays alive should you no longer be able to maintain it at some point. And he wishes you a long and healthy life, as we all do.
Okay. Part of that was answered in that earlier thing where, if I just drop dead tomorrow, somebody else will probably pick it up. I mean, wouldn't be that hard to scrape the age tables off of the database and set up a new site. As far as technically taking over the current site, I don't know that there's a lot of people who have the technical skill to do that. Security wise, it's not something I can allow people to do right now and train them. And, also there's just, I don't think there's a lot of interest in people wanting to do the same thing. I sense that if I just croaked tomorrow and the opportunity were there, somebody would come along and do the same thing, but do it differently. Just like I did it when Dirk passed away and was no longer available. I took what he had and improved it and added new stuff to it and made it, basically the same mission statement, the same mission, but just did it a little differently. And so I'm sure when my time comes, and hopefully it's not anytime too soon, that somebody else will take up that mantle and decide to do it the way they want to do it. So
excellent. All right. So our next question comes from, and I'm again gonna slaughter the name, but Jivan Yazdani in Aberdeen. Does typewriting engender a specific writing pattern? If so, I wonder if those who experienced the emergence of personal computers felt that their writing was being transformed structurally, and conversely, what the adoption of typewriting by entirely computerized writers might generate in terms of writing style. Thank you. A very philosophical question.
Yes, it is. I am less able to answer this than like an actual creative writer, I'm sure. I have not so much experience in terms of styles. But as this is 3 questions, I will answer them yes, yes, and bad spelling and grammar as the three answers. But again, I'm not an expert in these things. I know how it's affected my writing. I was not much of a writer at all before I discovered typewriters and, rediscovered them and found the community and started using them seriously. And then they started affecting my own output. I was able to start a blog, which I never had been able to do before, and express my thoughts in that particular mode, which is important to me because a typewriter is basically a first draft machine. You put your thoughts down on it right away. You don't go back and erase anything. And that's generally the way I write for my blog. You will notice that I'm not such a good sentence constructor. I really like run-on sentences, and sometimes I forget words entirely. But that's what comes out of the typewriter when I sit down and put fingers to keys.
Yeah. So go ahead.
That's what you get.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, just as a tool, it encourages you to just push forward and not worry about what's already on the page.
Yeah. Computers encourage me to be creative in a mechanical sense, in terms of programming, thinking out problems, solving problems, that sort of thing. But the typewriter is the thing that lets me put out my base thoughts and get them on paper, get them out there and show them to people, scan them, put them up on my blog.
Excellent. All right. So our next question, and I love it, is from Tyler A. in Hayden, Idaho. He asks, what is the airspeed velocity of an unladen European swallow?
Tyler, I do not know. Tyler, as you may know, is the expert on Fox typewriters.
Oh, okay.
Also the treasurer of Etsy, etc. magazine. So.
Okay. Okay.
We correspond back and forth, and he's very funny.
Yeah. Is that a reference to Monty Python?
I would say yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that is straight out of the Holy Grail.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you for that question, Tyler. All right. So our next few questions come from Kelsey Pollard in Vancouver, Washington.
Okay.
First is, what was the first typewriter you attempted to fix on your own?
I don't remember, but it was probably a 1956 Smith Corona Silent, which was it was not the first machine I bought, but it was among the first ones that I actually had to do anything to. And so I don't remember what it was. I think it was probably dealing with a skipping issue. So that was basically my first foray into fixing a typewriter.
Excellent.
Fixing skipping on a Smith Corona.
And do you have best success story, kind of dirt to dazzle?
Well, I have the latest one, which is that, let's see, I made a link. Let me copy it. Put it in the chat. Da-da-da. Oh, no, that's a completely different thing. Ignore that link. Here's the right link. Dirt to dazzle. I did a 1956, again, in 1956, Empire Aristocrat that I had bought in 2010, I think. And I was looking for a Hermes rocket. That was back in my early collecting days, and I was kind of buying things on eBay, as people do, to fill out what they think they need in their collection. And I needed a Hermes rocket, and I ended up with a filthy and stinky Empire Aristocrat, which I mostly ignored for 10 years, except to because it was the only machine I could that I had that was suitable for tripod mounting. It was light enough and had enough, had a bottom plate and enough sturdiness to deal with being mounted on a tripod. I put a tripod mount in it, and that was my tripod mount typewriter for a while, a field typewriter, but it was still ugly and stinky. So this past couple weeks ago, may have been last week, I took it out and tore it all apart and got all the soundproofing out of it. Used white cast to get all that old nasty glue off the metal. Repainted it, cleaned it and repainted it. Put a new badge on it, put new soundproofing on the inside, nice green soundproofing to go with the green keys, and made a Monster Scouts field typewriter Mark I, which was pretty neat. I have done restorations on a number of Selectrics. One Lettera 32, which had a busted body that I completely put in a completely different body and fixed up and repainted. Other than that, I haven't done a lot of dazzle. I mean, I don't get a lot of dirt to begin with because I tend to buy machines that are already mostly working. So, I don't get those rusted out Holts that a lot of people get. For a real dirt to dazzle story, it'd have to be, you take a rusty old, Densmore and you turn it into a brand new, like it came out of the factory Densmore in, 1910. So I don't do that kind of restoration because I'm lazy. And I don't really care for the machines that are that messed up anyway. But I will take a machine that is pretty much working and make it much better.
Excellent. All right. And her next question, and one I'm curious about as well, was there a typewriter that you were not able to fix?
A typewriter? No. There were lots of typewriters that I not been able to fix. All of my aborted attempts at fixing machines that don't actually get finished end up in my typewriter guy's parts room, or he fixes them up and sells them. I just give them to him. When I get to the point where I don't want to deal with a machine anymore, I just give it away to my typewriter guy and help him, fill out his parts room or have another machine that he can fix up real easy and sell. That is one of the ways that I support my local Bill Wall, my typewriter guy at Mesa Typewriter Exchange. Part of the back and forth that we do.
Excellent. And how often would you say that happens, that you just have to give up on one?
I'd have to say over the last 11 years, I've probably given him at least 40 or 50 machines.
Wow.
So, some of those work fine. They're just not machines I care about. A lot of sometimes electronic wedges, sometimes machines I just don't want to have anymore. I don't need. I go through binges where I'll go through and just clean out machines that I don't want anymore and give them to him. So, it's there've been a lot of machines through my hands.
Yes.
I've only kept about 50.
Okay. And now you're at 50, but if you were to add 51, what is a typewriter you're still on the hunt for?
Oh, okay. A very specific one. And there's only one in existence
Oh, wow.
that I know of. 1948 Royal Quiet Deluxe, gold plated with Vogue typeface.
Oh, wow.
And I only know one person who has one, and I doubt they'll give it to me. So I kind of doubt I'm going to get one.
Oh, you can dream though.
I can dream. It's a dream.
All right. So our next couple questions come from Brian Good in Buckeye, Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
The first
Brian
is,
very well.
Excellent. uh, what your favorite customized theme typewriter that you have done?
All right, I'm gonna post a list because I've done a bunch. Let's see. I don't know how this is going to turn out on in the chat thing.
It'll be fine.
Oh, it doesn't like it because it's too many characters.
Oh.
Let's see. Let's try this.
I know I personally haven't really done any customizing or theme to my typewriters. My philosophy is basically, if the typewriter works, that's all I expect from it.
Okay. Here are the start of the Selectrics that I have gone through and customized. There is the Blue Bomber, which some people may recognize as the Blue Selectric 1. 721 with blue keys, which is a kind of a rarity. And then I have the Green Hornet, which was another uncommon Selectric, a personal typewriter from 1984 that I painted green and black and put Green Hornet badges on it, and had that for a while. And then I have the Red Rider, which is a Selectric 2 that I did in duotone red. Let's throw that on there. And my Letter 32, which had a broken body, which I stuffed into the body of a Letter 35 and painted. And I call that R2 Lavetti because it's a two Lavetti, two Olivettis in one. And it's white, blue, and red, like our little friend R2D2.
Very good.
And then, of course, the Monster Scouts Field typewriter, which was the most recent one. So,
yes. Very good.
Those are the themed typewriters.
Okay.
I have a specific theme for them.
Well, on the most recent one, you mentioned that you did customize that one. Are there other ones that you actually customized?
There are some that I've customized. That list right there are the ones that I've actually customized.
Oh, okay.
I have others that I have customized mostly internally as far as function and sound quality. Those aren't really themed in the sense that I think he means, but they're ones that I have customized.
Okay.
That's about that.
Very good. His next question I also love because I'm a big music fan. Do you ever get confused with jazz musician Thelonious Monk?
Not that I know of.
Well, the spelling is different, right?
Yes, but that doesn't seem to matter. I get a lot of people writing me emails. Hello, Mr. Monk, M-O-N-K.
Oh, okay.
Like I'm the detective or a Buddhist monk or something.
Yeah.
Or Thelonious Monk. Maybe they got me confused with Thelonious Monk.
There you go.
So.
All right, and our the last one is actually not a question. It does come from Sarah Hartman in Washington, D.C. She says, no question, just wanted to say I appreciate all you do for the typosphere.
And Gregory for hosting this.
I didn't want to put that part, but there you go.
I have it printed out, so.
Yes.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yes, that's very,
we appreciate the appreciation. It does warm our cockles, our little fuzzy hearts,
and again, sometimes a good way to show appreciation is to look up the Typewriter Database on Patreon, or go to the Typewriter Database webpage and click on the link there, or even just use the database, right, Ted?
Using the database is good. I really love it when people join and upload their typewriters and basically participate in research or forming the information for the research. That's super important, and I want to emphasize that is the best thing you can do for the typewriter database is get your collection in the database.
Excellent.
That is priority number one.
Yes. All right. So I think we do have a little bit of time. So we're going to go ahead and do some speed round questions.
So the time permits?
Yes, the time permits. But these are going to be super quick. So
yeah, I already wrote the answers down. So
okay. So we'll get right to it. Tinker or type?
Type.
Form or function?
Function.
Manual or electric?
Manual.
Fix it or forget it?
Fix it.
Scratches and dents or picture perfect?
Scratches and dents. Love scratches and dents.
Keep it simple or features galore?
Both. I don't want to choose.
To paint or not to paint?
Paint.
And fad or future?
Future.
Excellent.
People always need to have creativity-inducing tools.
Excellent. All right, so we'll just end up with some closing questions real quick, and then I do want to take a look at the comments on YouTube.
Yes, then we can read the comment section.
Yes. So first of all, what advice do you have for the young enthusiast?
The best advice I have for the young enthusiast is you don't have to save them all. You will be highly tempted to save them all, but you don't have to.
Excellent. And what advice do you have for the seasoned collector?
The thing that I have learned recently, well, not too recently, but fairly recently, is love the ones you're with. You can get a lot of joy out of not so much chasing the next typewriter as figuring out ways to make the typewriters you have much better and fit into your life and provide you with a better experience. Take the ones you've got and make them better. That's, paint them, maybe, soundproof them, maybe put new rubber on them. You will be surprised at how they will reward you for that little bit of extra effort.
Very good. All right. So I'm looking at the YouTube comments right now. We have tons of people saying hi, tons of people saying thank you for this. And I do want to thank you, Ted, for participating in this.
You're welcome. Hopefully I'm only the first, because I know you were talking to Joe.
Yes.
So maybe he might be on for the next one, or
that's very likely.
I'm trying to lead you into
I know. So actually, Joe does have a comment here.
Okay.
Expanding the typewriter database is crucially dependent on each of us crowdsourcing information on each machine as we find it, a version of crowdsourced archaeology. I like that.
It is true.
Yes.
That is basically the mission, is we need to get all the collectors together and collect as much information as we can. And that involves getting those examples into the database. And, for me, it means finding documentation, buying up obscure sources of documentation and making that stuff available again. Going through it myself and finding information that needs to be put on the lists. Parts manuals are amazing for determining when changes happen to specific models. So I always pick up that stuff when I can. And that's what we do.
And then let's see, we do have a question from Liz G.
Okay.
She says, hi, Ted, do you still have your very first typewriter, Moneypenny? If so, do you use it often? Do you run into a common issue with QDLs like skipping or crowding of letters? So there's a few questions there, actually. Okay. So let's start with, do you still have Moneypenny?
I do, and I still use it quite a lot. It is still one of my favorite typewriters. I got very lucky with my first typewriter. It was $4.95, 1948 Royal QDL in its case at a thrift store, in perfect condition. I didn't have to do anything to it. I still have not done anything to it. It is still just as dirty as it was when I got it. I have never opened up the covers. The only thing I've done to it is change the ribbon. And basically I'm afraid to open it up because I'm afraid of letting the magic out that it has inside of it.
I don't blame you. I do not blame you.
But I still use it, and it's still wonderfully. It runs wonderfully. It never skips. It never piles. I have found that is the case for every 1940s Royal I have ever owned, and I have owned a few. The ones that skip are from the 30s and the 50s. And I do know how to fix that. It is a fiddly process. But once you do it, the machine is going to be better, but it may fall out of tune pretty quickly because they're the way they do the escapement adjustment on a Royal portable is very much bend this tab to the exact perfect angle to fix all the problems, and then hope it stays at that angle. There's no screw or anything. There's no lock nut. There's nothing that is actually all that precise about the process. But 1940s ones, I have right now. I have 4 of them. They all type perfectly. They never skip. They never pile. But I have had ones from the 30s and loads of them from the 50s that have just been skip-o-matics and pile-o-matics, and they all need to be tuned.
Excellent.
And was there another part to that question?
No, I think you answered it actually.
Okay.
Yeah, she was asking about the skipping or crowding of letters.
Yeah.
Yep.
Royal portables, love them to death. Love the 40s ones, not so much the other eras.
Excellent. And then we have Mike Durling asking, what kind of headset is Ted wearing?
It is a it doesn't say. It's an MPOW. It's a Chinese-made, like, cheap headset from Amazon, but it has light-up ear things. That makes me look like a gamer.
It does. Let's see. We'll just. I think that was it for the questions. There wasn't a whole lot of questions in the comments, but I'll just go through some of these real quick. Brian Good says hi.
Hello, Brian.
Joe says Ted's Phoenician.
I am a Phoenician, technically. I'm a Mason, technically, but
there you go. There you go.
I am also a Phoenician by association.
Maylin Travis says hi, Ted. Hello, Gregory. I get the proper hello.
Hello. Well, that's fine.
Brian Good says he will only specify down to Arizona. Ted's very cagey about his personal info. I think he's in the witness protection program.
No, I'm kind of a homebody, and I don't particularly like being surprised by people.
Exactly. I don't blame you.
They tend to set off the automatic shotguns in the front doorway, so it's messy, and I don't want to deal with that. I'd rather just have them, meet me on my terms.
There you go. Bob with Typewriter Muse says this is awesome. Let's see. David Corneli says output device for my thoughts. Great way to sum up one use of typewriters.
Yeah, that's basically what I call it. It's an output device for my thoughts.
Yes. Typewriter Muse. Are these all your questions, Greg, that he is currently? Oh, yes. I think Bob was eager for me to get to the typewriter community related questions, and
oh well, he had some of his own, so
yeah, exactly.
It's understandable.
Diane Mayer says hi to us.
Hello.
Lee Kennedy on the other side of the pond says, thanks for all your hard work and dedication, Ted. Is very much appreciated.
You're welcome. I like doing it.
Dan Linder says hello, nice show.
Hello to Sweden.
Yes, Sweden. Great Mr. Monk, I'm taking notes here. Excellent. Good idea. I should have been taking notes, but I have this recording, so.
I took notes.
There you go. Someone had to. Brenda Blomberg says hello.
Hello, Brenda.
Bill Taft says hi.
Hello, Bill. I think he's in, is he in Albuquerque? I think he's a friend of Joe's.
Yes, I believe so.
Brenda is too, actually. I think Brenda went to visit him. And
yes.
I got little cleaning sticks from Joe that they're very pointy and very tiny with a tiny bit of cotton on them. And I think he got those from Brenda. So.
Oh, okay.
I think he told me in his letter that they were from Brenda.
Lee Kennedy does have a nice comment for me. We won't mention
Read it.
Okay. Thanks to Greg too for hosting the Typewriter Club and more recently interesting live video open forums like this. You're bringing a lot of like-minded people from all over the world together. Thank you so much, Lee. I appreciate it, but I'm just here to spotlight, everyone else basically.
I echo that sentiment.
All right, then we have Christopher McKellar saying hello.
Hello.
Bob again saying that Bob guy asked some weird questions. I think
he did
the undergarment question.
Yeah, he's a weird guy, but we like him.
Yes. And let's see here. Don Silsby says, thanks so much for asking my question on the Electra's lack of info on the typewriter database. It's a good lesson for us all. Oh, by the way, Palm Beach Gardens is located in Florida. Okay, I thought it was, but I didn't want to show my ignorance, so.
You just have this what do you call it? The pride of being a Californian. You think anything with palms in is in California.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, let's see here. Maylin Travis says, very true, Ted. Use them. All my machines get better and looser after giving them a good workout.
That is very true. That is one. If there's one thing you want to take away from this is use your typewriters.
Yeah. Then we have KBP Art Moogie saying, I agree. Sometimes issues go away after using it for a bit.
Yeah, that's one of the best repair methods too, is you just use it.
Yes. Let's see here. Jay McDermott says this was a great interview Q&A session. Well done, both Ted and Greg.
Thank you.
And let's see. Malin Travis says, thank you, Ted. You alone have answered every typewriter question I ever had. It's my 1-year anniversary, and I couldn't be happier to rediscover and refurbish these wonderful machines. Thank you, Ted.
And we are happy to have you in the community. It's been a whole year. Jeez.
I know.
When she was just a fresh-faced little girl with her guitar and her big magnifying goggles and asking so many questions and showing off her new machines. It's always really fun to go on that journey with people and re-experience the excitement, because there's a special sort of excitement that happens when you're newly discovering this hobby, and just everything is amazing.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a fun time.
Yes. And then we have KBP Art Moogie agreeing with me and thanking you again, Ted.
Mm-hmm.
Lynn Johansson, what's next on the database?
What's next on the database? What's next? I just did some stuff on the original Matus, and I'm going to contact some people in Europe to see if my work is actually useful. If it's actually reasonable within what they know about the original Matus, which was a very obscure little machine that was made in the 30s and 40s and 50s, probably the 50s. We're not entirely sure. But it was made in Czechoslovakia, in the intermediate time between when it was taken over by the communists. And so there is some interesting factory lore that goes along with that, and how the production was stopped or changed, and in what way. And I'm currently working on that problem. And I also have this crazy idea about date codes in Silver Seiko serial numbers, which may crack the whole thing open. So I'm pondering that.
Excellent.
If it seems like I'm very sure about Silver Seiko serial numbers when I'm correcting them in the database, it's because I'm following hunches based on this idea.
Oh.
And I may just go through and redate everything and just go for it and see what happens. But there's an idea. It's percolating.
Yeah. We will keep our fingers crossed.
So.
Yeah. Jack Cell Girl says, I missed this, but we'll watch the recording. Can't wait. Thank you both.
You're
and
welcome.
Again, this was not only being streamed live, but it will be available on this channel. Mm-hmm. So you're welcome to enjoy it to your heart's content. And thank you for watching.
Multiple times even.
Yes.
for your satisfaction.
Yeah, there you go.
Make sure to clean up after every viewing.
Then we have, and I apologize if I'm slaughtering your name, but Eric Bruchez. Thank you both. That was great.
Is it Bruchet or Bruchez?
Oh, maybe Bruchet.
It might be brunches.
No. There you go.
It's not brunches.
Is it brunch? No, it's
it doesn't have an
N. Eric. We'll just say Eric.
We like him bunches.
There you
go. We like him a lot.
Yes. We appreciate you watching, Eric.
Even though we slaughter his name.
Yes. But we know he'll forgive us. And then
we hope anyway.
Yeah, I know, right? I make an assumption, but anyway, Brenda Blomberg says, "Yes, I did see Joe. Glad Joe shared them. I'm not sure what she's referring.
The little cleaning things that I.
Oh, the cleaning things. Okay. Yeah. I can't take the live video right now, so
I actually need to show them off because they're. I wasn't sure what they were at first. I thought they were like needles with little protective tips on them. Let's see if I can put it on. There. But they're really tiny. They look like pencil leads in like from mechanical pencils. But they actually just have a little dab of cotton on the end, and it's for getting into really difficult places to clean. So I'm going to find a very good use for them. I thought that was a very neat little gift.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm glad you spread them around.
Yeah. Very generous. All right. Well, thank you everybody for participating. Yes. Thank you for all these wonderful questions. We've had a fascinating time speaking with our own Theodore Ted Munk.
I hope it was entertaining.
And Ted, thank you so much for being a part of this and dedicating this time to it. I really appreciate your time because we know you have things to do on Typewriter Database and with your typewriter repair manuals and your blog and all your other projects. So I appreciate you being here.
Well, I appreciate the chance to come here. And like I've said before, I'm really enjoying and appreciating the fact that you are building this kind of video community, this space where we can come together and talk about our hobby and just kind of, hang out.
Yes.
It's been very, very fun. I've tried not to miss any. I've only missed a few. I really enjoy it, and I think it's a very valuable thing that you're doing here. And
thank you.
I hope that it continues and you stop doubting yourself about it.
And you know what? If nothing else, is one way to get you to talk on camera.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not very good at it if I'm just talking to a camera. But if I'm talking to a person,
yes,
then I don't feel like I'm alone and that the world is crushing me. And All this sadness and loss.
I know. On that note, thank you again, Ted. Thank you for being here. And thank you, everybody, for watching. And we will see you next time, perhaps at our next week's special meeting,
which is
interview with Joe Van Cleve.
Yay!
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. And